something that you can do easily almost anywhere, home office, anywhere. The first method that we're going to show you while we sit is a little more complex, and it's more the whole enchilada, you might say. So here we go. We're going to start by concentrating on a few specific points, and I'll show you on Anna where these points are. The first point is called the Bai Hui point in Chinese. It's sometimes in English we refer to it as the crown point, and it is the very top of the head. However, it's not the crown in the sense of where your hair comes out. If I spin Anna around again, the hair comes out here. This is where the crown is, but the very top of the head is over here. And you can find this point actually very easily for yourself by simply taking a line straight up the spine that goes directly over the head and down the bridge of the nose, where that line intersects with a line from the top of the ear over top to the other ear, and then we end up right about there. That's the Bai Hui point, and you can discover it for yourself pretty easily. But what we're going to do now is discover it internally, which is more important. So you're going to sit down again in your meditation posture and again go into normal abdominal breathing. Now this time, focus on that point, the very top of the head, and just put your mental attention there as you do the breathing exercise and see what you feel. So pause the DVD for 3 to 5 minutes and just try that. Just relax into it and see what you feel. Now, if you sensed something, it was probably a sensation a bit like the opening and closing of a valve. You probably felt as if the Bai Hui point itself was breathing. You felt kind of an inward rush and an exhaling, strangely enough, at that particular point. If you did or didn't, it doesn't really matter. It will come eventually, so don't get too upset if you didn't detect that. However, we're going to move on to the next one now. For this one, we want you to concentrate on your fingers, the tips of your fingers, as you do your SSDN. So pause the DVD again for 3 to 5 minutes, and just while you're breathing, just pay attention to the ends of your fingers and see what happens. Now you probably felt in the tips of your fingers a strange kind of inhaling and exhaling rhythm along with your breath. And that's exactly what you should have felt. It's this strange perception that breathing isn't something you only do with your nose or your mouth. It isn't something that only concerns the lungs, but somehow breathing engages the entire body. And you can feel this very easily through your fingertips. You can also feel it through the toes and the surface of the skin. You can also feel it sometimes through the eyes, the ears, and these are other places where you should try to see what you can detect. Again, using your mental attention. This is a very important dynamic. It is possible using your mental attention to feel the inside of your body. And this is extremely important for the art of Hara in itself, which is about reintegrating mind and body. To reintegrate mind and body, you have to begin to move back into your own skin, to get comfortable in it, and to sense physiological dynamics which your civilization has educated you out of feeling. One way to do this is simply take your hand and concentrate on the tip of a finger. When I say concentrate, what I have in mind is simply try to feel any physical sensation you can at the tip of the finger. You may sense a kind of breathing. You may sense the pulse. You may sense blood flow. You may sense a temperature variation. There are all kinds of possibilities. Now, move back and feel the center of your palm. Do you feel something there? Then move out to the tip of your thumb. Can you feel it? Can you use your mental attention to detect a physical sensation in that area? The more you do this, the more you'll realize that you can feel a physical sensation anywhere in your body you wish to. You're simply oblivious to it, of course, most of the time. But the basis of the body scan is to be able to do that. And we're going to show you how to do that right now. So for this segment, you don't want to pause your DVD. You want to keep going because it's a little bit complex. Or at least it will seem that at the beginning. Because it involves using your mental attention to sense all the way around your body. And you'll find that by putting your attention in a particular place, some really amazing things can happen. What I'd like you to do first is to put your mental attention on the muscles on the right side of your shoulder. At the back of the neck, the trapezius muscle, the one that gets very tense when you get very tense, just put your attention there. Just relax and feel it. Just be aware of that muscle. And you'll find that the more you're aware of it, strangely enough, it begins to relax. The more you put mental attention onto it, it just seems to dissolve. And then you can do it on the other side. Of course, we're going through this rather quickly. You may, on your own, want to do this much more slowly. Then when you've done that, begin with your mental attention at the top of your spinal column, which is, of course, at the back of the skull, right at the back. And you'll find you can go down the spinal column, trying to be aware of each vertebra. Go down that slowly. Spend as much time as you need to. Don't only spend the time we're giving you, which is not much. And just be aware of each vertebra of the spine. And the more you put your mental attention there and the more time you take, the more you'll sense a movement, a physical movement, as you go down the spine, as things begin to relax. And you can go all the way down your spinal column this way. Once you've done that, you want to come back and begin with the head. The body scan typically begins at the top and moves down. So what we're going to do now is take a few minutes, and you'll have to follow the directions in the manual for this because it'll become a little bit complex as I explain it, but I will explain the sequence now. You can also put your mental attention here on the point between the eyebrows, and then move it down to the eyes themselves, to the ears, to the side of the jaw, to right below the nose. You can actually use the mental attention to go around the outside of the head to simply cover everything centimeter by centimeter. That's easy to do. It just takes a great deal of time. You just go right to left and go down. And once you've finished going down the head and the neck, you can go around the torso. You can go down the right arm. You can dissolve blockages that occur at joints like the elbows, then move down to the wrist, finally to all the joints. You can do this on the left side, and then you can do the legs. And there's a marvelous feeling that occurs when you do this. It takes a while to do the entire body this way. That's why we're going to give you a slightly shorter method. You also don't have to do the entire thing at one sitting. It's absolutely not necessary. But the body scan is a very potent technique for dissolving tensions. It's also absolutely safe. The only thing you want to avoid is putting your mental attention deep within yourself. You don't want to put it deep within either your brain or your internal organs. You want to focus on the soft tissue, which is where tension tends to be lodged. So your muscles tendons, ligaments, the diaphragm. You want to allow the tension to go out. And you simply do this without any effort. There's no effort on your part. You're not trying to do anything except feel. Feel physical sensation with your mind. That's all you're trying to do. It's a very, very simple dynamic. Forget about the results. Just try to feel. Feel the inside of your body using your mind. Now we're going to show you a slightly different method of doing this. I'll smooth that out of the way. And I'll show you on Anna the different points you want to think about as you do this dissolving process, this body scan method. You start with the Bai Hui point, and you can do this standing as Anna's doing now. She could be standing at a bus stop. She could be standing anywhere. She could also be sitting. She could be lying down. It doesn't really matter. But this is just a method. This particular variation is one that uses particular points. And by using particular points, you're not doing every single square centimeter of the surface of your body. So it takes much less time. Anna would do the Bai Hui point. She would do the mid-eyebrow point. She would do the eyes, the ears, the mustache point, as I call it, although Anna fortunately doesn't have one. Chin, the side of the jaw on either side. And then using on the front of the body, she'd move down, and there's a point right below the collarbone on either side, right there, right there. Then she would move down to the solar plexus, which is where the ribs come together. Then down to the navel. She would also do the hara itself, the perineum. Those are the main points on the front of the torso. Oh, and there's one other that's extremely important. On either side, right about there, that's the diaphragm. Of course, you have 3 diaphragms in your torso, but the one that people usually call the diaphragm, the one at the bottom base of the lungs, is particularly important if we're talking about stress and anxiety, because people tend to lodge a great deal of tension there. If you have heart palpitations because of stress, for instance, it's mainly because that's where you're lodging your tension. So that's one point you can also focus on. And then for the back of the body, you want to do basically, there we are. The trapezius muscles, which lodge a great deal of tension here, you can go all the way down the spine, all the way down right to the tailbone. There are points here, the shoulders, the lower back, and at each side of the buttocks on the sides, not on the back, but on the sides where there's an indentation. That's another point. And with arms and legs, it's really quite simple. Simply do joints. Do around the elbows. Just focus anywhere around the elbows you can, front and back. Same with the wrists. Same with all the joints on the hands. So you do one arm, then the other. And when you go down to the legs, it's much the same thing. It's knees, it's ankles, and it's joints in the feet. And those are the key points. And if you do those points, you'll find a great deal of tension flowing out. A great deal of, according to Chinese medicine, energy blockages do tend to happen at joints. And that's one way of eliminating that problem. And of course, as we said, in soft tissues, you tend to store your tensions in various parts of the body in soft tissue. So you can begin to dissolve the tension that you've housed in your trapezius muscles, the back of your neck, diaphragm, anywhere that you happen to lodge this stuff and keep it for a rainy day. That's where you can focus on. Just use your mental attention and allow it to run off. The second week of your SSDN practice is going to be devoted exclusively to doing the body scan method in the sitting posture. And as we've said, you don't have to do the whole thing at once. You can break it up. You need to play with it. You have to give yourself a little bit of freedom. This program is not at all rigid. It's meant simply to take you to a place you haven't been before. After you've practiced SSDN for a while, you'll begin to feel a certain calm, a certain peace. And you may have noticed that it's very difficult to take that with you. Once you get up off your cushion and you go off to your daily activities, you're probably lucky if you can maintain that calm, that focus, that gentle feeling that abdominal breathing and focusing on breath and hara gives you. You're lucky if you can maintain that for 5 minutes. It's pretty much a miracle if you get even that far. The enemy here really is movement. It's simply physical movement. Movement is a very distracting thing, but we're physical beings and we have to move. So how do we do this? Ancient traditions noticed that this was an extreme problem, and they had to devise ways around it. We have such a way around it, in fact, and it's what enables the ancient art of harage, or hara, to allow you to harmonize all aspects of your life so that you never lose that focus, so that you're always able to lead a perfectly relaxed and natural life. We're going to show you how to do this now. Now, you may have heard of the ancient, not so ancient, Chinese martial art and health system known as Tai Chi or Tai Chi Chuan. Tai Chi is a system that people often in the West practice for health purposes. And Tai Chi, as it's used for health purposes, seems to consist, as you probably have seen, or you probably have the impression, it consists of very slow, rhythmic movements. And this is true, it does. Now, of course, Tai Chi is an extremely dangerous martial art, and as a martial art, it's done considerably faster than this. However, for health purposes or for purposes of reintegrating mind and body, which is the whole point of what we're doing here, Tai Chi is an extraordinary thing. The problem is, most Westerners who do Tai Chi 1% of their time, and for the other 99% of their day, when they're not doing Tai Chi, they lose entirely all the benefit of it. But there is a way of using the dynamics that gave rise to Tai Chi, in fact, because the Hara system and its Chinese equivalent predate Tai Chi by centuries, many, many centuries. It's possible to use these basic principles to essentially give you the same inner harmony, the same stress-free existence, the same mental focus that Tai Chi would give you if you could do it 24 hours a day. And we're going to show you how to do this. And the beauty is you don't have to know the extremely intricate postures of Tai Chi. The intricacy of Tai Chi postures comes from its combat application. It was devised as a martial art. This you don't need to know. But we're going to show you some of the basic principles that are, in fact, at the basis of the ancient world's spiritual health and martial traditions, and how you can use these to stay completely focused, even in the midst of the daily grind. Now, before we get to moving, we have to first show you how to stand. We have to revisit the whole idea of posture. What we're taught in Western culture about posture is that ideal posture is stomach in, chest out, shoulders back. Oriental medicine doesn't agree. In fact, it says if you try to maintain this posture, you will more than likely end up with severe psychological and emotional problems, not to mention physical ones, because their idea of good posture is belly out, chest in, shoulders rounded. So we're going to show you exactly what good posture consists of and some exercises you can do to check your posture. So we're going to have Anna turn around a little bit and move her feet shoulder width apart. And we're going to start from the top down as we go through these postural adjustments. The first postural adjustment you want to make, you're assuming a stance where you're roughly shoulder width apart like this. Now your feet, by the way, they may be parallel or they may be slightly apart. It doesn't matter. Typically, the manuals you will find in most cases, will recommend parallel. Women typically don't do that, and it doesn't really matter. So don't worry about it too much. Also, don't worry about how far your feet are apart. Don't spread them too far apart because you'll end up with much more strain. And that's not what we're getting at here. So with the feet at shoulder width apart, we're going to start from the Bai Hui point. right at the top. What we're looking for is an odd feeling of being suspended by a thread from the bi-waypoint. What this causes is it causes the chin to tuck in very, very slightly. However, if you tell someone to simply tuck in the chin, that doesn't quite do it. It's better to feel suspended from above, because this causes a slight pull-up on the back of the neck. And that's what we're really looking for. It's not so much the chin in, it's a slight elongation of the top of the spine. So that's the first adjustment. The second thing is Anna's going to put her arms in front of her so that they're going to be in front of her body, just loose and relaxed, like this. That's simply to get them out of the way and doesn't serve any other real purpose. Now, there are many different variations about arm postures and all that, and we won't go into that for a moment. The next adjustment we want to make has to do with the shoulders and the chest. Anna is fine the way she is. What you want to avoid is having the shoulders back. Having the shoulders back is an artificial position that you may be used to from having that chest out posture. So you want the shoulders to drop a little bit in front. This allows the shoulder blades to spread to a sort of normal width so that things feel kind of comfortable. And this allows the chest to move inward a little bit. In Chinese circles, this is called opening the back and closing the chest. The next adjustment we want to make has to do with the hips. So what Anna's going to do is, first of all, she's going to stick her bum out. And most people actually stand this way most of the time. We tend to stand with our buttocks out. So I'm going to ask Anna then to go the other way, to go the other extreme, simply tilting her pelvis forward as far as it can go. And from that forward position, simply to allow it to drop backward a bit so that it feels comfortable. It shouldn't feel tight. It shouldn't be in that totally forward position. What this does is it tucks the tailbone under. It straightens out the small of the back somewhat. There's still something of an S-curve, of course, because the back is never totally straight. But if you look at it now, what Anna has done is to create a situation, and it'll probably feel a little artificial to you when you first start doing this, where the tailbone is tucked under and the head, or this whole area, the neck and the head, is a little bit cranked that way, just a little bit. It's kind of like an old-style film canister where the spine would be the film in between and the reels would be here, and it's just making it a little bit taut at both ends, so to speak. That's the posture you're looking for. It's once you drop the tailbone, it's a very relaxed posture. You feel a bit like you are suspended from the top of the head, and you can relax into it. There are some fantastic advantages, by the way, of tucking the tailbone under. One of them is balance. If you're ever on a train, a bus, a subway, and you're standing up and having a hard time keeping your balance because it's moving at high speed over bumpy terrain, tuck your tailbone under. Your balance will improve many times over. So once Anna has done that, she's going also to bend her knees a little bit, but so that they're comfortable. When she bends her knees, what she wants to avoid is this. I want to bend them farther. What she wants to avoid is this situation where the top of her knee, if you were to go straight down in a vertical line, goes past her toe. You want to avoid that. Then you've gone too far, and what you're doing is putting all the strain on the knee. So you want to not quite go that far. If you feel strain in the knee, adjust until you don't. You should feel that the weight goes down through your skeletal structure into the ground through your bones, and that the knee is not bearing weight. The knee is meant to transfer weight. It is not meant to bear weight. So Anna is now in a nearly perfect posture. The problem is it's very difficult to see these precise details on the outside. The mistakes that people commonly make, the worst mistake, or the most common mistake and understandable one, is that when a person gets into this posture, they think that they're perfectly straight when in fact very often they're leaning slightly backwards. Anna is actually very well situated at the moment. But it's very common in this that once people tuck the tailbone under, they end up sort of like this, thinking they're straight up when in fact they're leaning backwards. And then you want to tilt them forward a little bit and they think they're leaning forward when in fact they're straight up and down, straight vertical. So these are the postural details you want to go and check for. It's a good idea to stand in that posture and just practice it. Even when you're watching television, just stay in that posture and try to relax into it. It'll be difficult at first, and you will also notice that with each passing minute, something disintegrates, something falls apart, and you have to go and readjust it. That's typical, and there's no way around it. You just have to get used to it. We're going to continue now with posture, just to show you one more exercise, one slight variation of what we've just done that you can do with great benefit. It's a practice called embracing the tree. Anna's going to get back in exactly the posture that she was in before. Yep. Yeah, we won't go into it yet. We'll just, yep. And then she'll do all of the postural adjustments that we talked about. She'll move from the byway point, dropping her spine, tucking the tailbone under a little bit. And she'll relax into that posture. And now, embracing the tree is extremely similar to what we've done. The only difference is it really